Well, hello and welcome back. This is Frantz Kantor here, cartoonist, illustrator, toon talker. I'm here at the Australian Cartoon Museum on site, and I'm going to do another drawing today. So let's get started. Okay, so the subject, you can probably tell from here, I've been trying to work out some shapes to play with. I kind of love this shape. And the reason is because it's got a lot of rhythm. Rhythm is a musical term, but applied to drawing, it's like, you know, something you practice in, say, life drawing. Life drawing, incidentally, is a very good help for drawing in general, but also particularly caricature, because you're trying to quickly accomplish shapes. Simplifying of shapes is a way of accessing something that is complex. We all hate complexity. We love simplicity. You know, I mean, simple things like that would be, you know, that's a great subject to draw, right? Because it's made up of a very simple construction of elements, shapes that we instantly recognize. To draw something more complex like this would require a little bit more time and analysis. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Having said that, the art of caricature that is to me, I mean, it's a personal choice, I guess, that a lot of artists have, and a way of, you know, everybody would have a different take on a different description. But for me, it's a series of simplifications. It's a way of simplifying a complex shape, and because it's simplified, then you have the chance, the ability to sort of pull and push, right? Because you don't have to draw details yet. You're concentrating on the simple shapes, and those simple shapes you are able to distort, right, and pull like putty. All right, and the other thing is, of course, exaggeration. Exaggeration comes from, like, you know, the ability to change the shape once you've simplified it, but also within the confines of the new parameters, the new spaces, the new shapes, the new positions that you're trying to draw into. That's where you start to form the relationships of the elements of the face. So we're going to be drawing a subject today that is, we're going to be doing, no, we're not doing Quagmire, but I just thought I'd share with you an observation. Quagmire is sort of based on, to my mind, I don't know if it's official, but to my mind it's based on our subject for today, which is this guy. Now, this guy is Bob Hope, and he's one of my favorite comedians. He has this sort of sarcastic tone, and he's, you know, you can see it partnered with people like you know, Bing Crosby on the road movies. This Dorothy Lamour, I think this is from Road to Bali or something, and he's a really incredible comedian because he has this very iconic face and a set of expressions which he plays with constantly. It's his sort of set. So normally he would have a fairly relaxed demeanor. He's an incredible communicator, by the way. The muscles on his face indicate an incredible amount of control and communication. So there's a lot of stuff happening here. But you could see that most of the communication is through his eyes. So that's something we're going to play up. We're going to look at that. This is with Jerry Colonna, one of his first business partners, comic partners. And I think he used to do that. NBC would, I think he probably did a radio show. That was a radio show in the 40s and things. These are like different, that's the comedy duos, caricatures of them all. That's what they were like. So Bob was he was born in 1903 and he died in 2003. So he was 100, and he made the century. And he's won. He's hosted Academy Awards, and what else? I mean, you know, there's the song "Thanks for the Memory," which he's famous for. That's his sort of like a theme song for him. And he was born in England, and of course, you know, went to America, and that's where he made all of his films, some fantastic films. Started as a vaudevillian comedian, and then went on to Broadway, and then from Broadway went into the film business. So he's sort of a dapper gentleman, you know, sort of look very clean cut. This is a caricature by Hirschfeld. Hirschfeld visited him. This is from the 70s. You can tell now from the long sideburns and probably the bow tie. Al Hirschfeld, of course, was a famous New York caricaturist. A lot of celebrities. This is, I think it's Barclay, Bond Barclay. So you can start to see caricaturists playing already in the 40s with his ski nose. They called it the ski nose. Somebody must have quipped, you know, hey, it looks like a ski jump, and that stuck. And of course, he probably would have loved that. It's another Al Hirschfeld from the earlier days, 1940s probably. This is a TV guide. This is by Al Hirschfeld as well. So you can start to see the shapes that they're recognizing here. This sort of peanut shape, this sort of scooped expression, this scooped shape of the face. So that's what we're going to probably look at as well. He did a lot of USO shows and TV specials and things. This is with Raquel Welch. This is with his signature prop, his golf club. This is with Bing Crosby. This is, I think, the road to. This could be I was thinking was the road to Bali, but I'm not sure. It could be, but you know, this is a sort of a Fez moment. So we're going to try and do. This is from the road to Morocco, I'm sure. So both Bing and Bob Hope wore fezzes in the Road to Morocco, which is a great film. This is him wearing it. You can see it looks like a dope, like a Shriner. So he's a very affable guy. Very, very. So we got two of those. This is by Norman Rockwell. So this kind of tells you the impression that he made in America. He's sort of become, an icon in many ways. This is from the USO shows, of course. Probably Miss America or something like that. So that's what I remember seeing that all the time on TV. You know, every Christmas or whatever, there'd be a Bob Hope special on TV, and they had all the local stars and things of the era. And they were really cool, but I never really got into the films until probably Road to Morocco, which was on a Saturday matinee on TV. And I just loved the relationship between the two comic giants, you know, the Bing Crosby and Bob Hope. I really liked the relationship and the banter, you know, and especially him. He had this really incisive, cutting, sarcastic remarks and things. It was very animated, and of course, because of that, because he's animated as a character, I love him, and that's what I'm going to draw. So the shape I'm going for is this sort of very interesting, big forehead, which I think makes sense for this. I'm not going for a big jaw, but I'm going for a very, very cool scoop, like a shovel effect, So I love things that have compound shapes, or shapes that go into different directions. They start going one way and then they end up in another way. So it's an interesting S curve that gives it a form of rhythm and dynamic. So against that direction, I'm doing the opposite with the body. So I'm creating a conflict of position. So to give it more action, more dynamics. So, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use. And of course, I'll put the fez in as well, because it's, you know, fez. It's what is not to like about fezzes? They're so cool. So this is another fez caricature. So what I've done is I've done a fairly tight thumbnail. I've been trying to work out, you know, what to do with these different shapes and things like that. But I think I've found that the thing that makes sense is this forehead. It features a lot in his demeanor. His hair sort of recedes up to the top and sort of bulges out this huge dome of brain power, and it's reflected a lot in the cartoons and caricatures that I've seen of him. So it looks like it's the right direction for it, and I think I've managed to capture a little bit of the expression. So what I've tried to do is take this thumbnail and sketch it up. I've gone a little bit tighter than I normally would, but I've also put in perspective, which is interesting too, because you know, perspective indicates that something is three-dimensional, even though it's a two-dimensional drawing. Okay, so you always think of the structure underneath. So if you look at our skull, right, it's a three-quarter view of the skull. So you can see that this orbit is narrower. Let's get it in the right position, Frantz. Get this orbit is narrower in shape than this orbit. Yeah. So other things, what are we going to look for? Probably we'll look for some cheekbones, although as I said, his face is incredibly muscular. So it may be overriding that shape there to be found. He'd have a very big skull. He'd have a very interesting skull, I'm sure. So I don't know. We'll have a look at that. The other thing to concern ourselves with is this mask zone. So why do we call this the mask zone? It's because this little T shape here, right? If we try to superimpose that over the shape, yeah, this is what we've got to contend with. We've got to look at the nose, the eyes, and the mouth, right? And we've got to do that together. We've got to look at all of these four elements and how they work together, because this is going to confirm our rhythm. Okay, this is going to confirm the likeness. We always look for these elements here and their proportion and their detail. In other words, their individual shapes and contours, and that's where we get our meaning from. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff happening, and let's get into the drawing. So as I said, I've taken the thumbnail. I've probably gone a little bit overboard with the drawing. I usually start with something a little bit more looser than this effect, but let's try and see what. Oh, I'm using this photograph too, which I thought was an interesting thing, because you can see a little bit of the shape of the nose, and there's definitely, you know, a chin that's very prominent that comes out. I haven't got any pictures of his profile, but it would be very similar to this sort of indication. You know, the chin would definitely be quite a prominent feature. All right, that's quite a nice shape. I would like to make that. Okay, so let's go. You know what I might do is I might jump in with a black, because this is quite nice, the amount of tone work that I've gone and produced in here. So I think we can sort of safely proceed a little bit with a little bit quicker now with the black pencil. So as I said, you know, a lot of things I missed as a kid. Like I missed watching, and you know, because they were like adult focused shows. So his TV specials, I would have missed them. You know, my parents would have watched them for sure, but I never saw them. I saw bits of them. You know, if somebody came on that I knew, I'd probably be called. You know, hey, what's his name's on? You know, and then I'd rush into the lounge room and have a look for 5 minutes, and then go back to my comic books and things. So consequently, I wasn't aware of his prolific movie work, as I probably should have been, until quite late. And I'm talking into the 90s now. So that sort of, you know, I did appreciate his humour. I obviously must have seen one of the road movies on a matinee, probably Road to Morocco. I'm pretty sure, because I think that's got the patty cake gag in it. I remember that. And that was a gag actually that they put, both Bing and Bob Hope used that gag quite a lot in about 3 films for some reason. Dorothy Lamour was in, you know, it was the female character in the lead, like the love interest for, you know, and the rivalry for both Bob and Bing in the films. So she was interesting. I think she was her background's a singer, but she was very good with the comedy timing, and of course, you know, providing that sort of dynamic of rivalry, friendly rivalry, I think, because, you know, ultimately they're both sort of down on their luck, and they go on an adventure to save the girl, or do some, you know, get away from their debts, or whatever it is. So whatever the premise is. I think Road to Bali has them starting out in Australia. So that was an interesting. That must have been really interesting in the 40s, as to for Australians, you know, just to see them here, and to see a movie being made, an American movie being made here, a road movie. So my love of these road movies that I discovered, I didn't know about them when I was a kid. I probably would have liked them. I just didn't know about them. I didn't know there were more than one. You know, when I saw like Seth MacFarlane's homage to the road movies with Brian and Stewie, you know, it sort of, I guess it's vindication that they were pretty special. They were nice. You know, had some good things going for them in that. In that series of films. So I would have seen Bob Hope on, you know, in movies, probably, you know, where he was on his own, you know, maybe opposite Phyllis Diller or something in a film. He just later on in life, like in the 60s, it was sort of like the same character as he was when he walked on stage at a USO USO show. So same level of, you know, ease and very easygoing, and delivered the gags and you know, the light-hearted sarcasm, just some observational humor or something. So in the early days, in the 40s, of course, he had a lot more energy, and I think the comedy was, you know, based on this. In many respects, that's what this vision is here, the expression and everything that I'm trying to get, because it's got a lot of that signifiers that he used to use, you know, with the eyes, and the looking to the side. So you still keep your face towards camera, but now you're looking off camera. So you've got like a sense of mischief or something that we can't see, but is funny because probably we can't see it. I don't know what the premise is actually. I think it's one of those things where, he must have noticed that he got laughs from that expression, so he kept it up. Remember, he came from vaudeville, so that's like a live audience response. So if they laugh, you do it again. So it would be like that. That's where his decisions would be. He had good timing. He had really good timing as a comedian. There's a lot of people that we love their humor, and and it could be their energy, it could be the cleverness of their lines, the intellectual part of the act, I guess, or but with him it's sort of energy. It's not energy, sorry, it's timing. So he's really like a lot of those jokes are flat, but they work because of the timing. The timing makes it work. So some of the jokes are like corny, but because he's right on target with to the split second, they work. They get a reaction, they get a laugh. It's got a lot of nice shapes on his face, so it's a good subject. It's actually quite a nice, pleasant experience to draw a face like this, because it presents a lot of energy, a lot of the challenge is a pleasant experience, a lot of diversity in the shapes, and that's always a good thing to, if you don't find it, if you can invent it, great. But if it's there, it's there. It's part of the appeal, So it's the appeal of choosing a subject. This is a subject that I've chosen. I've never drawn him before. So it could be that, I don't know whether the likeness is perfect, but I'm just going to play with it and see what I can find here. Now there's some subtle areas of details here, like he does have lips, but they're quite they're not very prominent. The top lip, the bottom lip is more prominent because the jaw is coming out, it's pulling the lip out. So you just be careful with outlining things, because black tends to be very defining in terms of line work. So look at the muscles here, the pulley systems. It's arranged around this device here, the lips, the mouth. So he'd be wisecracking from birth almost. It's got really nice. He's got a nice face. You can tell, like if you knew him, you'd like him, because he's got that sort of friendly demeanor. I guess you could tell that he's a nice guy. For a Republican. They used to make jokes about that. Of course, they're not funny anymore. Republican and Democrat jokes are not funny anymore. But back, when he was doing USO shows, or even I think in the road movies, there was a little bit of political gags and things about Republicans and Democrats. course, now it's vicious. It's not funny anymore. So I'm glad I don't. I'm glad I'm not involved in newspapers anymore. I don't think I would enjoy the process. You know what? I made a mistake with that. I don't think I'll put that in there. Be very careful. He's got very elastic skin, and for that reason, there's not a lot of wrinkles on his face. Certainly not from this period. So be very careful how I attach this, or attack it. Sorry. Also, you know, there's that shadow, that penumbra. I'm not keen on that being so dark. So what I'm doing with the shadow, let's see. There's a general consensus. Let's see. Let's draw a new object to sort of clarify this. So there's a general feeling, although this is a Hollywood lit photograph, that the light is coming in from the top right, which means that shadows fall on the left-hand side of the object, yeah, which is simple to consider. So everything that you draw has to have that sort of directional information that you're putting in there. So forms that you're pulling out, like the nose, for example, you have to make sure that the light is falling in a pattern or in a direction that makes sense to the overall lighting direction. The main lighting. Of course, you can put in, you know, break up the shadow areas with pin lights or side lights or rim lights or whatever you want to call them. It's just lights that highlight the contour on the opposite side of the light. So light comes in on one side, which is more even, and then forms a shadow, and that shadow is sort of invaded again in many ways with another light from the other direction. So I've been doing these Fez caricatures, and no one's asked me why, but I just like them, and I started it by drawing Peter Lorre, and then I drew Sydney Greenstreet. So both of those characters from Casablanca, you know, wore fezzes because Casablanca. And then who else did I draw? I drew the comedian Tommy Cooper. So was also a fez wearer. So there's some kind of a Moroccan thing about fezzes. Of course, a fez is associated with a Turkish uniform, military style uniform, and Morocco was part of the Turkish empire. So it kind of gives a weird sort of feel to the characters in a way. They're either embedded in some story that has a Moroccan-based narrative, like this, you know, Road to Morocco, or it's got something to do with the Shriners, which are like this, you know, a club of celebrity fundraisers or something, and they used to, you know, like Fred Flintstone in the Water Buffalo hat, would meet and, you know, raise money or whatever, and they used to wear fezzes, and those Shriner fezzes were very ornate, and they had sort of meaning, and there is a sort of a meaning for fezzes, a history of fezzes, which I haven't gone into, I don't know much about, but it sounds interesting. But I just like the idea, the cap idea of, you know, especially with a lot of characters that you draw, it's sort of like a cap on the bottle, caps the energy in a way, you know. So that's the only reasoning, really. It's just something that I think has, in and of itself, it's an interesting device, and that's my reasoning, and I'm sticking to it. So I'm going to run out of people soon, and I'll have to resort to my favorite cartoons, like Ren Hoek from the Ren and Stimpy show, who wore a fez on various occasions, sort of looking very old world and dapper in the fez. And there's Morocco Mole from the Hanna-Barbera show, Secret Squirrel, of course, who wore a fez, but he was more of a cartoon version, a caricature, a mole version of Peter Lorre. So there's kind of a weird thing about fezzes that are interesting. I find a little bit interesting, a little bit fascinating. I don't have a fez, so I can't really comment on what they feel like, but I think they're an interesting device, a visual element that means nothing much in particular. You know, nothing much. Doesn't really mean anything in particular, except it's got some connotations to Turkey's empire, you know, the Ottoman Empire, and Morocco. Of course, I think the Ottomans had the fez became part of their uniform, so they actually wore that as a cap. So, you know, where the British at the time would have worn pith helmets or something. So it's got like I think that's what the Shriners are interested in, because it's got a feeling of antiquity. So that's probably why they liked it. You know, and it had a sort of I guess there was a mythology about it, but, you know, the mythology would be, you know, mostly made up. It's a sort of a symbolic mythology of the fez, but, you know, it's not. I don't think it's that relevant. So I'm trying to line a few things up here. I must admit, you know, I love suits because they present such beautiful lines, you know, lapels and that, and they denote different eras. I mean, this is the 1940s. This is like influenced by zoot suit styling, you know, big lapels and shoulder pads and things like that. Sharp looks, so this sort of doubling, you know, the doubling back of the lapel shape and stuff like that. Sound like a tailor now, but they're very interesting. You know, shapes are something you can't really take for granted. It's they're very inspiring to you know, to work with, and a lot of the times I just love to draw it freehand without, you know, I mean, I'm looking at the reference, but I'm not putting in a lot of detail or making the suit look realistic. I'm just interested in the overall shape and effect. That'll do. That's kind of nice. Let's continue. I'm going to fix this ribbon here. So he's actually got an impressive array of radio shows. So if you were to Spotify Bob Hope, you can certainly get quite a few old radio shows to listen to. And he's very funny, you know. His early days, he had that sarcasm and that, you know, the perfect timing and it was just really quick. And you kind of got the impression, although they may have worked from scripts mostly, but you kind of got the impression that he's no slouch in the arena of impromptu comedy. You know, obviously the patter, the jokes from some of his movies later on, when he became more in the 60s and became more of a seasoned comedian. I think those jokes kind of lost a lot of the shock factor, or the energy from the live shows that he used to do, or the live gags he used to do, or the impromptu gags he used to make. He had really good timing, really good timing. I kind of think that, even though there would be rehearsed, obviously, I kind of think that it would be an easy thing for him to do live. So, I could have done a lot of different subjects today, but I wanted to be happy. So I just wanted to visit a happy spot, and I love him. I love this man. I think he's the bomb. I think he's a genius, a friggin' genius, and he just like exudes professional style, and I watch his films quite a lot. Some of the older stuff, not so much the road films. Some of his films where he was like outside of the road shtick, or the premise. So things like My Favorite Blonde, My Favorite Brunette, where he gets My Favorite Brunette, actually, he gets to play with Dorothy Lamour again, and Bing Crosby does a walk-on as a executioner. It's also got Peter Lorre and another star from the horror films, Lon Chaney Jr. And he plays a great part. So what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to help the black pencil a little bit by creating a stronger sense of contrast. The other thing is too, I think I'm going to help with the contour lines, because some of the outlines, not over everything, but some elements, might need a little bit of thickening up. It's when you thicken some of the lines, you tend to make it feel rounder, You need a steadier hand than I've got for this to work properly. In Photoshop, you've got smoothing algorithms and Procreate, so you don't have to, if you're a bit shaky, it can correct those errors for you. But here, you're on your own. There's no undo. There's a couple of reasons for thicker contours that you want to put in. One is to make it stand out from the background. Another is to be careful. This has a nice way of feathering, like a thick and thin process. This is a Zig Brush Pen, and the ink is in the handle, and you can squeeze it and push more ink out, so you can get like a lot more. It recharges the brush, so it saves you dipping it into ink all the time, which is an annoying thing. Also, this ink dries quite flat too, which is not always the case with with Indian ink. The old-fashioned stuff was a very hit and miss. Okay, so I've done some black here, just kicked it up a little bit. We're going to get into some white now, because this is going to be a tonal drawing. So we start with a brown pencil. In this case, it's a Prismacolor. It's a terracotta, which is a reddish brown. We've used black pencil, of course, which is a polychromo, which is a harder lead. And we're going to be using white pencil. This is another polychromo, which is a harder lead, but probably this one will get us through, which is another Prismacolor. Now, Prismacolors have a tendency to break, so be very careful. They're very soft leads, but because they're soft, they're going to give us a nice sort of ability to create a gradiated level of tone, nice level of tone. The other thing we're going to be playing with probably is a brush pen like this, which is a Posca acrylic paint pen. So it has a little ball bearing which you shake, and you can kind of push you have to push the paint out to the bristles to get it working. This is a little bit, I'll have to get another pen. So we're going to be using that. And what else? There's another smaller Posca, and there's different Poscas, and they're all, this sort of thing. So let's try to get some extremes in here. So what I'm trying to do is establish a hierarchy of light to dark. So that's why it's handy working on grey paper, because you've got a mid-tone to work from, so you're drawing back in space and forward. I'm going to resist painting in shapes, I think, around, but just, I think here and there, just helping with some reflective elements, to denote wetness in the texture. There's other things I can do as well, like, establish like this a pin light, side lighting, that helps to kick out the form from the grey paper, just a little bit like that. It's fine. So there's a light from the other side. So it's like you're thinking about three lights, essentially. All right, so let's get onto the white pencil. Try to help this process out a little bit. It's nice that it can. Oh, you know what? That brown is going to react with the pink. It's going to react with the white pencil. So I'll just remove some of those that squareness of the highlight which I've drawn in. I like the shape, but if I kept the outline, it would interfere with the white and turn the white pink, and then it would sort of stand out as a black and white and brown and pink illustration rather than or drawing rather than just a three color. It'll suddenly turn into four color, which it may not be a big thing, but I just like the natural colours of the brown, because it approximates skin colour, warmth of flesh, and that's helpful in drawing a face, obviously, even a caricature, but it's good to sort of keep it under some kind of control if you can. The lights work really well when they're right next to the dark outlines, you can see. So it pops, it makes it like really strong. I keep referring back to the photograph. I'm just sort of looking at, even though I changed some of the direction and I forced some of the what do you call it, perspective on the face, more than the photograph. I'm just looking at subtle things, details that I can put into the drawing that bring the likeness back into a realizable direction, so that it's likely that the likeness will be achieved better under certain circumstances. What's going on here? Now it's reacting with the black pencil. I might have to fix that. This looks, that thick part looks a bit uncomfortably thick. Let's fix it. We'll fix it with this. See how beautiful and opaque this brush pen can be, and because it's a brush pen, it's that opaque acrylic, but it's able to make points, so you can go from thick to thin in a stroke, which is kind of handy. All right, that should be okay for that. I was conscious of changing, when you change the thickness and thinness of a line, because it's got a very strong outline here. When you change its thickness at the wrong angle, it looks weird, because you're trying to create a sense of roundness and also sometimes a sense of perspective. So, it's kind of you showing that your angles are wrong. It could be a subtle thing, but it bothered me. So if it bothered me, I wanted to change it. This is, when you do a caricature, I love getting ideas from people for subjects and things, but I never seem to run out of subjects that I find interesting. I think this guy, I'm fascinated in this guy. I think, I don't know why I haven't drawn him before. I think, it's just one of those things that just never got around to drawing, Bob Hope, but he's always part of my life in many ways. He's the comedy styling of Bob Hope. He's very out there. He's very influential. And you kind of recognize that timing when you hear it, when you see it. It makes sense. It's like, aha, that's why he was so big. You kind of get it now. It wasn't like, well, I was going to think of some comedian that is not so funny that I don't get, but I guess they all have different styles, but like Jack Benny or something, but you kind of like them for different reasons. I mean, obviously, Abbott and Costello are both physical and written humor. So I like them as well. They were bigger for me than obviously Bob Hope. But Bob Hope was somebody that I knew about, respected, but didn't really enjoy his work till much later when I discovered it. You know, it would be in the 90s, literally in 1990s. You know, I never really took the chance to listen to his films. That sounds silly, doesn't it? And you're going to listen to a film. Yep, you're going to listen to a film, and you're going to appreciate the timing that has gone into this. You know, the effort that he's kind of put into the scenes, into the gags and stuff. Makes a big difference. But different comedians, you know, have they affect you over time, don't they? So even Benny Hill, you know, I'm not ashamed to tell you that I loved the Benny Hill show when I was 13. You know, coming home from school or something, I used to have a friend, Malcolm. I had two friends. I had friends. And we would enjoy, you know, British comedy and television comedy, probably. Although my my liking for comedy, actually, for British comedy, went way past Benny Hill. So I got, you know, really interested in the Goons and the Carry On films. I know it was silly, but I just loved them. I mean, the jokes are really flat, but you know, I find the delivery more than ample reward for the joke, even though the joke's not that funny. The character's interesting. I found that to be the case. What a pleasure it is to draw somebody so smooth. I was just thinking, you know, he's so smooth. His skin is so beautiful and smooth. I mean, what a great thing. I love drawing the little subtle details and wrinkles and things, but, you know, once in a while you get to a face and you think, you know, whoa, it's so slippery, because it's a tactile thing. I'm sculpting in space here, and I'm, you know, it's like me running my fingers over his face. Kind of creepy, but it's like you know, thinking of it as a piece of clay or something that you're trying to create a relevance, a story with, a visual story, and you know, it's kind of neat to play with, really. I love the sculptural effect. I mean, I do drawing every day, but you know, just when I get a chance to get into the brown, the grey paper, and you know, I find it very cathartic, I guess is the word, although I don't know what cathar is. Cathar. So, you know, shiny bits, textures. This white pencil is so fantastic. It's a soft pencil, and that means it builds up like a pastel, you know, and can really handle going over and over and over itself and other pencils. So it can make a big difference. Whereas these pencils are hard and they don't go over the other pencils so well. See, you press harder, but you have to be careful, because, you know, they are soft pencil. They're soft pencils, so they could, and quite frequently, break. I used to have these steel little sharpeners, you know, these little things, and smaller ones, and they used to be fine, but for some reason they always break these white pencils, so that's why I got one of these – because they seem to take smaller slices of the wood, and they don't tend to break the pencil so readily, which is handy, because they're bloody expensive pencils. You know, they're about $3 each. What a lovely face he's got. Look at this beautiful muscles, and you know, it's just such a joy to draw with, to find these highlights and shiny bits all over his face. It's just really good. I've got an opportunity. When you have the opportunity, even though it's not there, if you have the opportunity to feature this, these elements, the cheekbone, I mean, there's also that, but the cheekbones are very close to the skin. So whenever you feature cheekbones under the skin of a caricature or a portrait, even if the photograph does not have those cheekbones, if you have a chance to do it in there, it's going to make a difference, because I'll show you as I put it in, it's going to like give a sense of believability to the form, right? Because we know it's there. We know it's there. And just because it's not prominently featured in the reference doesn't mean that you can't take a bit of license. So I'm just going to tone it down. I'm just going to take this opportunity just to shade it a little bit. Obviously there's a crease there from a laugh line, but I'm just going to shade it a little bit, and I love that. That's beautiful. You know, it's not in the photograph. You can't see it. It's not there, but it should be there, because that's where the skin reveals it. You know, there's other things too. I kind of like this hatching effect of the shadows. I'm going to leave that. I kind of like that. That's pretty good. I might just fix this. You can see sometimes the brown pencil is a little bit shows out through the white a little bit, so you know, it makes it a little bit messy. The technique you're using for the pencil strokes, by the way, they're hatch lines. So the same if you're doing pen or pencil. So rather than, you know, a smooth effect, if you go with the hatch lines, it tends to give it more of a legitimate textural quality, which you kind of need for skin. Fez is a red, so I'm actually going to put in a bit of a shadow over here next to the highlight, and then cross hatch my way into the grey paper. That will work. That'll do. So that's just to give it a little bit of a help. And we'll go back to the white brush now. So, you know, the last time we met with a white brush, we were doing this white contour line. And now we're going to keep our eye on some of the wet spots, or the highlights areas of the reference material of the photograph, to see where I can put in some little highlights here and there, just to give it a little bit of a kick. So obviously there's a complement of, you know, the light that's hitting the nose there would also hit the jaw there. There's another light on that side, but I don't think I'll put the light on the jaw. I think I'll leave that out. The other thing is, of course, just create a sense of contrast. Just colour in the shirt might be a good idea. So don't know what's the reasoning behind this. It's just to get a sense of contrast of the shapes. I don't know what to do with the background. Either do it white, or like a cross hatch effect, or black. I might just do it black. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So usually this is a nice like cut in with a sharper brush, you know, I could actually do it with a pen better. I've got some Posca markers, some, you shake them, shake them, shake them, shake them, and bake them. And these are great because they're, you know, like the white, they're acrylic markers, and they don't go through the paper. They sit on top of the paper. And the best part about it is, of course, they dry flat, which is really cool. For years, I've been, you know, frustrated with Indian ink. I was so annoyed with Indian ink. Because, you know, I do a lot of this sort of window effect, this compositional tool that quite a few artists do. I've seen Drew Struzan do it a lot. And it gives a sense of completion or balance, you know, with the negative space that you're applying. And I filled it up with Indian ink. And, you know, Indian ink tends to pool. And where it pools, it goes shiny, and it has sort of weird iridescent qualities sometimes as well. So, you know, I mean, obviously these were illustrations for a newsprint, so the newsprint were fine. They wouldn't pick up any shine, but the illustration in real life, the drawing in real life, it just had this horrible epoxy effect, this shiny, horrible shiny thing to it. And it used to really upset me because you never saw it drawing it. It never appeared drawing it, you know. It would just suddenly appear as it dried. Suddenly. So, you know, usually I have like a good handle on technique and materials, but when that happens, it's sort of like out of left field and you can't really do anything about it. It's too late, you know, because it's already dried and things. You're kind of trapped with that effect, like it or not. So there's no real way of evenly painting Indian ink. It either goes light or goes, it works, or goes too light or goes too dark. If it goes too dark, it means it's too wet. It'll pool and create a metallic sheen, a metallic gloss to it. So it was, you know, it's one of the most terrible things to experience in areas like this that you could imagine. Line work, you wouldn't notice it, but, you know, whenever you try to paint it, use it as paint, bang, you know, it would hit you. And that's the only thing I had at the newspapers, you know, because when you do it at a desk that's not your own, you don't have black gouache to play with, you know. You can't make your own black, dense black. So you have to sort of use the materials that the other artists are using in the art room. And, you know, I mean, let's face it, the most common material is Indian ink. It just really upset me, because I did this, what I'm doing here, I've done that for years, like, you know, and just to have it let you down dramatically, so dramatically, it just ruined it for me. I would literally hate the result, the illustration. I'd hate it because of that, you know, that horrible metallic iridescent shine that it would develop because you've allowed the Indian ink to pool and dry in an uneven thickness. If you have any Indian ink at home, you can play with that and annoy yourself with it. So Going with a thicker baby. Look at that. That's a big Posca. That's a beautiful thing. I've tried a lot of markers recently. Gone through Uniballs and things like that. They're all annoying too. They're all glossy, you know. And this is nice. This is like flat, and you know, it's like responsive. It's like how it's supposed to be, folks. Materials. You don't want materials to fight you. You want materials to work. I hate it when you have a fight on your hands, and you know, with materials, it's a losing battle. That's why, in many ways, it's quite an expensive hobby for people, painting and drawing, because the materials are like really prohibitively expensive. And if you try to cheapen out on them, you won't get any form of result. If you think back to trying to color in a McDonald's placemat with the pencils they give you, think about how horrible that experience is. You never get any coverage with those pigments, those cheap pencils. It's quite a frustrating experience. So, you know, Poscas are actually, because they're flat, the other, actually that's not the, we should talk about those things, but this is the flat one. So you have to experiment with inks and things that you buy, and obviously don't leave the art shop until you've tried the material that you're using. All right, so that's a good tip, isn't it? They provide you with paper beside the thing, so you should use it. Test it out, see if it does the right thing for you. If it doesn't, don't buy it. Don't get stuck with hundreds of dollars worth of materials that will just sit under your bed or in a box or in the garage, you know, and never get used. So let's go. The old Bob Hope. Wow. This has been fun. This has been really fun. Put a little bit of shine there, a little bit up there, here and there, just to catch a little bit of extra. Help. I love this. You know, let's have a look at the original thumbnail, which I've just destroyed with white brush. I kind of like that too. I wouldn't mind a puppet of that. This is Bob Hope, and this is my attempt at Bob Hope, and I've had a very enjoyable time. I hope you guys have liked this caricature. This is him. You get a chance to watch these guys in a film, like My Favorite Brunette. Definitely go and watch it, because it's well worth the experience. Okay, so this is Bob Hope, this is Frantz Kantor, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye-bye.